Welcome to this campaign broadcast, everybody. Some introductions first of all. I'm Eddie Dempsey, the Senior Assistant General Secretary of the RMT.
And I'm Beth Schroeder, President of the National Cleaners Conference.
So tonight we're holding this broadcast on the Cleaners is Essential campaign to update you on the latest steps the union is taking in this campaign to win better pay, better conditions, and vitally to win insourcing for all of our cleaning grades. It will be a chance for us to answer some questions that have been submitted to us by people online and some of our reps and members. And we'll get to that a little bit later on. But we've been in consultation with you, with your representatives, with our Cleaners Conference and Liaison Committee about the Cleaners is Essential campaign and what the next steps we should be taking in the next phase of this campaign. But before we get to all of that, it's probably worth reflecting on where we've come from. RMT is an all grades industrial union. That means we operate on the basis that we believe no worker is more important than anyone else. We organise all grades in the transport sector, and we try to bring the power of all of those workers together in the interest of us all. Privatisation of the railway has led to fragmentation and has led to the outsourcing through the private companies of cleaning grades to outsourcing companies across the country. This means members who are working in those companies are faced with a real issue. Their employers come in and bid for contracts on the railway, and they do so on a basis of trying to undercut each other. They don't own any assets. The only bill that they've got is the wage bill. And so in order to undercut each other, they try to come in and make sure they can do the same work with less people or pay less in wages to the people doing that work. We've also got the anti-trade union laws in place. That means we can't bring everybody out in strike action together as we would like to do. In an ideal world, this wouldn't be necessary, but the fact is that your bosses are only in this for the money that they can get. And the way they make their money is by holding down your terms and conditions in order to get the profits that they get. It's worth noting that the 7 main companies involved in outsourcing cleaning work in the railway all made bigger profits in 2021 than the train operating companies they were contracted to work for. Before the pandemic, they achieved a whopping 101 million in profits and paid 78 million of that in dividends to their shareholders in that year. They're given contracts to do this by the train operating companies, who are private companies themselves, who are only in this for the money, and they make their money by putting as little as they possibly can into the contracts that you work in, and they're supported in doing this by the government. So what this means is that negotiations for cleaners to improve pay and conditions are extremely hard, and we can't win just by the power of persuasion or making clever arguments. We have to do things to move employees, to do things that they don't want to do, and the only way we can do that is by using our industrial strength. Your wages are not based on how hard you work or the contribution that you make to society. The wages that you're paid are only based on the strength of your organisation and the militancy of your union. So that means we've got 2 weapons at our disposal. Number 1 is the strike action, our ability to disrupt your employees' businesses and force them to make concessions through industrial action. And the other is through the efforts of our union in our lobbying work. Our ability to put pressure on these companies through lobbying politicians, through press stories, through direct action campaigns, and raising awareness with the general public. The pandemic gave us a unique opportunity, we felt, to raise the issue of cleaners because it was clear in everyone's minds at that time just how important cleaners were to the health of the nation and to the general public. That's why we launched this campaign, the Cleaners Are Essential campaign, with 5 key demands. The first was to get you a wage of £15 an hour, to get you travel benefits equivalent to those of other directly employed railway workers, to get you a pension, a decent pension that you can retire on, and a sick pay scheme, so that you don't have to take annual leave when you fall ill. But most crucially of all, we aim to put an end to the outsourcing racket altogether, and have you directly employed by the companies that are making their profits off of your labour. We launched a campaign of sustained industrial action throughout 22 and 23. And we supported this with a series of lobbies of Parliament, direct demonstrations at the premises of train operating companies, outsourcers alike, as well as the DfT and at Parliament. We won the support of many politicians and we raised the issues clearly in people's minds, but we have to be honest that we didn't get all that we wanted to get. Eventually people got tired and started to worry about money that they were losing, and we couldn't get over the threshold set in the anti-trade union laws. The truth is that these fights are hard, with no easy wins, and the outsourcing companies struggle to defend their profits from you, and they've got the support of the train operating companies and the government. These outsourcing companies, when we were out on strike, were still paid, even though the trains and stations were not being cleaned. All they had to do was demonstrate they had a plan to do some of your work whilst you were on strike, and they got paid. They got paid using taxpayers' money, even whilst you were on strike. But be no doubt that your action did achieve some things. In London, our political campaign ensured a massive win for our outsourced cleaners on TfL. We got our members there access to travel benefits that they didn't have before. On Eurostar, on the Churchill's contract, we managed to get members above £15 an hour in pay. On Churchill's contracts across GTR, South Eastern and Network Rail High Speed, they were all forced to implement the real living wage, which it had resisted for many years. On the West Coast, our members in Italian service got the real living wage and an additional £37 a week. And on Merseyrail, we're pushing hard for the insourcing of mighty cleaners. And on London Underground, the Mayor is reviewing the outsourcing of more than 2,000 cleaners. On TransPennine Express, your colleagues have just won the payment of the real living wage, backdated to the 1st of November, and a commitment to work towards the £15 an hour that we've set, as well as enhanced travel facilities. Even on an everyday level, the way that your managers treat you and the way that your reps have now gained respect in the workplace has been transformative. They know they have to talk to your reps. They know they now have to deal with us as an RMT union. It's not all that we wanted, but it's important. And none of it happened because of the employers you work for having a change of heart. It was through the efforts of you, the members, taking strike action and lobbying with us. We will never apologise for fighting for cleaners in this union. We've come a very long way from when we first started organising the cleaning grades and the attitudes that were prevalent amongst ordinary RMT members in some of the directly operated contracts. There has been a division created where railway workers don't see cleaners in the same way that they see each other. With separate mess rooms and different uniforms, these divisions have only widened. And as part of this campaign, we've sought to bring railway workers back together and have cleaners recognised as the railway workers they are, so that we can fight together. Ultimately, our members got worn out by the strike action, and we didn't achieve the threshold set by the anti-trade union laws. But we'll continue to fight. We're now receiving reports of where we stand in pay negotiations coming into the new year across companies all over Britain, and we'll seek to coordinate that within the Cleaners Are Essential campaign. Where we're ready to, we'll take action, and we'll get back out on the pickets and fight. Where we're not quite ready to, we'll organise to get members back into a fighting footing. We're committed in this union to not relent until we achieve the aims that we've set in this campaign, no matter how long it takes. So that's where we've been, and that's a little bit about some of the background. I'm now going to hand over to Bella, who's going to talk a little bit more about what we think we should be doing next in the next phase of this campaign.
Thank you, Eddie. So obviously it's worth noting, as an all grades union, we will always continue to support outsourced workers because we're only as good as our weakest members, and at the moment that's us, the cleaners. I've been a cleaner for 7 years and I'm not going to stop fighting until we're back in house. So where we go from here? Firstly, we've got our industrial arm. We're returning to pay conditions and we're in discussion with the officers about this year's pay round. We're determined to learn from the experiences of last year. The lessons we think are, firstly, nothing is won without collective pressure. Secondly, wherever members want to fight, we're up for supporting that and we'll do that in every way we can. That can't mean strike pay. We need to be clear about that. We do have hardship funds and we can raise money for those, but we can't afford to pay people strike pay, and that has to be clear. While there are a lot of similarities across all of our contracts for cleaning on the railway, there are important differences in the conditions, and that means the pressure points will be different in each case. So we have to think hard in each case about what the pressure points are in each contract to ensure that we're being smart as a union and where and how to push. We need to be honest with members that we're not going to win everything we're fighting for until we are all brought back in-house. But we also need to be better at a union in communicating, and what we do win, we need to publicise, as we're in danger of selling ourselves short. That's our promise to you. Nothing will change about that fight, so if you're up for it, we'll back you in every way that we can. It won't be easy, but there are things to be won, like Eddie discussed just now, with the cleaning contract that have won travel facilities and an uplift in pay. The more we win, the more it builds fighting confidence and the more it puts pressure on the outsourcing model. Secondly, we have our political arm. We're turning up the heat around trying to break with the outsourcing model and get everyone directly employed. We've got an election this year and the Labour Party is committed to oversee the biggest wave of insourcing for the generation if it's elected into government. RMT is determined to hold them to this promise. As part of our work, we've organised a joint union lobby of Labour politicians on the afternoon of the 12th of March. We're working with Unite and PCS Union, who are also running major campaigns around insourcing, to get delegations of outsourced workers to London to take the message directly to the Labour politicians that they need to deliver on this promise. There are 50 spaces available for this on a first come, first served basis, as the union will cover the expenses. To register for this, you can either fill in the form we will email to you if you register tonight, or you can email the address in the ticker below. I urge you to all get involved in this lobby, as it's important that we redo the Cleaners campaign. We've learned from the mistakes that we made before. We had the confidence there, we had the passion there, and I believe that with all of your support and all of your strength, we can break through this outsourcing model on the railway. So please get involved.
Thanks, Bella. So now we've got some questions that have been sent in from some people tonight. The first question I'm going to ask you to take, Bella. This is from one of our members, and the question is, what can RMT do to rebuild people's confidence that taking strike action can make a difference?
I think that's a really important question. Firstly, what everyone needs to remember is RMT is not a god in the sky. We are the RMT, we are the members. The reps are part of the RMT, the members on the ground are the RMT, the officers are the RMT. So I've seen that confidence. I've seen it on picket lines on my contract. We have 40 different nationalities of cleaners standing together on picket lines, shouting of what they should have in the workplace. So the confidence is definitely there. We just need to regroup. We've got a new strategy. We need to get back out there, keep fighting until we're put back in house.
Thanks, Bella. I've got a question here from Stephen, who works on the Great Western Railways contract. He's been there for 6 years without guaranteed hours and with no rates for out of hours working, in spite of regularly working late, working unsocial hours, whilst he's dressed in a Great Western uniform, but doesn't get the same pay and conditions as Great Western workers. Whilst they've got the living wage uplift, he wants to know how the union plans to tackle this. Stephen, that's a great question. I used to work for the Great Western Railway myself. I remember the first campaign we ran with cleaners on the Great Western Railway. At that time, cleaners were on the minimum wage, and we had a blanket refusal, both from Mighty, who was running the contract then, and Great Western Railway, that they weren't going to pay the real living wage. And it took strike action. It took a lot of strike action and a lot of pressure, including direct action. We went down and occupied the head offices of Great Western Railway. We kept the campaign going, and eventually we got an agreement that all outsourced workers on the Great Western Railway would be paid the real living wage. So now we've got that. The problem is, how do we get people beyond it? I know that pay talks are commencing for Italian Service in March of this year on the Great Western Railway. And it's my view that we go in with the clear aim of achieving £15 an hour, campaigning for a sick pay arrangement, a pension for our members, and for travel benefits the same as the rest of the Great Western Railway workers. So we go in with that set of demands, we negotiate as hard as we can, and we build with the members. It was the cleaners on the Great Western contract who really started the first wave of strike action of cleaners in the RNT union, of modern times at least. And I believe those workers can do it again. If we can't get a settlement that suits you, and if we can't get you what you need, then my advice is that we get back out on the cobbles, get striking, get campaigning until we get a settlement that works for you. The next question we've got here is from John Johnston, who works on South Eastern. Evening, John. He believes their contract is expiring in October this year, and that South Eastern are always complaining about the contract. I think he means about the level of cleanliness on trains in that contract. And John asks whether the union should be pressing South Eastern to take it in-house now. Well, first of all, it's really good to hear from you, John, who's been a stalwart in the Cleaners Are Essential campaign. I agree. I think the opportune moment is now. If the contract is up for tender in October, excuse me, we should be making an approach now to South Eastern Trains, saying that what we want them to do is we want them to have an insourcing bid as part of the tendering process. That's something we can do, and I believe we'll be getting on with that in the coming days. And I think that's what we should be doing every time one of these contracts comes up for tender. We should be in there demanding that there's an insourcing option as part of that tendering process and pushing for them to take it. So thanks for that, John. Bella, I'm going to hand over to you for the next question.
Yeah. So the next question is, how can we support the lobby event on the 12th of March? Can we get financial support for this? Yes, as you mentioned, you can get financial support. It's a legitimate expense from your branch or your regional council to pay for your travel costs to get you to the location and on that day. If you're not sure who your branch secretary is, you can ring up RMT's help point line, you can contact your local rep or health and safety rep, or you can log in to the membership system where the contact details will be there. If not, you can do this through regional council, who can also pay for your expenses.
Okay, thanks for that. I'm going to sum up just on a few key points. So this campaign has not gone away. We're going to continue the work of lobbying, starting with the lobby of Parliament on the 12th. We'll be continuing with more action as the campaign develops, including demonstrations, direct action, and where our members are ready, we'll be balloting for strike action and taking our members back out to fight for improvements. Bella was just describing how you can get involved. We have sent a link out to people, a form that you can fill in. That's gone out by text and email. What I'm going to do is have that sent out again. So just fill that form out. We'll get the information and make sure that your tickets are bought so you can get down to the lobby of Parliament. You can help us get organised for the next phase of action by spreading the message amongst the workforce, talking to your friends and your colleagues in your depots, telling them that they don't have to put up with the poor terms and conditions that they're on, reminding them of how important they are to the transport network, and telling people that they need to stand on their 2 feet and get involved in the fights that are ahead of us. Also, I would say that people should be reminded on the 9th of May this year in York, we'll be hosting our Cleaners Conference. This is a real focal point for all of the work we do for cleaners in the union. So I'll strongly encourage you to get involved. Please make sure that you're coming to that conference as a delegate. Get in touch with your local branch. Your branch will nominate you. Bella will be there as the president. I'll be there as the officer. We'll all be there together. And hopefully this campaign will be more developed and we'll be discussing more action at that conference. So do get involved. Thank you very much.